Hi, my name's Leanne and today I'm going to show you how to create this fun festival makeup. So to start our festival look, we're going to work on the eyes first. We're going to be working with lots of loose pigments and also glitter, so there's no point doing our base until our eyes are complete. So the first product I'm going on with is the Dermacolor Camouflage Cream, which is great for your concealing, and I also love to use it as an eyeshadow base. It just really helps to build your colours and also give a lot more structure and sharpness when you're trying to build quite a dramatic eye. And I'm just going in with the Blue Masters brush, which is 8908, just to get a nice blend but also definition as we come up to the brow. This is just in the shade 62. Of course, use whatever shade's going to be most suited to your skin tone, but I always like to go really light on the lids so that it helps to build and make the colour pop. I'm then going to just take my Unicorn Perfecting Sponge and just blend off any of those edges just so we don't get any hard lines. Okay, so I also need to make sure this cream's set before I start to apply any eyeshadows, otherwise you will find it hard to actually blend the colours through. So again, I'm going to take my Unicorn Perfecting Sponge. I'm just going to dip it into a little bit of the translucent Derma Fixing Powder. Now when we're doing any festival makeup, we need to think if there's going to be heat, dancing. You want the makeup to be really water resistant and durable, so the Derma Fixing Powder in P1 is fantastic just to really fix and bake your makeup. Now for this festival look, we're going to go for something really vibrant, bright, lots of glitter, lots of colour. If you're doing anything like a music festival, an art festival, you want to make sure everything is really flamboyant and stands out. So more is more in these sort of looks. So we're going to start first of all with the Variety Bright palette, which is this one here. So it's your V2 Variety Bright. This is one of the probably most popular palettes if you're doing any creative or festival makeup, just because the colours are so vibrant. So I'm going to go in first of all, I just want to start with my transition shade, so something a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to go into this one here. I think is probably going to be the best starting colour. I'm going to do pinks and oranges, so I want to make sure I have a nice gradient as well. So I'm just taking a really fluffy blending brush. This is from the premium range. It is 9363. And we want to work this all the way up to the inner corner, but leave that brow bone nice and clear. You want to see that pop of highlight coming through. This is such a pretty colour. It's kind of like a salmony pink, which is actually a colour that's on trend this season, so that works. We just want to use up as much of that space as possible, make the eyes look really big and extended. Okay, so we've got all of our transition shade down. We now need to start going in and adding definition and contour. So I'm going to use the AB22, which is this really deep magenta pink. And I'm going to work this just to really build and define the eye. Taken a slightly more tapered brush just so you can really get into the contour and crease of the eye. This is in the article number 3511, and it's tapered enough to get definition, but it's also quite fluffy as well, so that you can kind of blend as you go so that you don't get too many hard lines. But I never worry too much about the blending at this point. I just want to get that definition in. So if you really want to help to build colour as well, you can change your application technique. So rather than like blending and buffing that product through, you just really want to kind of stipple and press in, and then it can really build up the intensity of the colour. Okay, so before we carry on and add another shade, I'm just going to take a really soft blending brush. This one is 8920 from the Blue Masters range, and I'm only going to literally blend the top, so I'm not going to come any lower than that. I don't want to over blend everything. This is literally just to get a nice gradient of colour up to my transition shade. So I'm just going to add a little bit more definition. So to do that, I'm actually going to go in with an even deeper colour now, so using this purple. And this is going to stay quite tight actually into the crease of my eye. I'm not going to overblend that, I'm literally just knocking off the edge there. Okay, so I'm going to add in a cut crease for this style of makeup just to dramatise it and to make it a little bit more graphic. So I'm going to take the HD cream liners. I have the shade Snow, and I also have Fruity Orange, which is this one. So I'm going to mix these together and use this to carve out the cut crease. And again, any kind of colour palette that you want to work with, you can just do exactly the same. I just like to work with the cream liners because they really help to sculpt and define the eye. And I want it to be a little bit more pastel-y, so I'm just mixing the Snow in just to tone it down a little bit. So I'm just taking a flat brush. This is 3712 from the Professional range. And I'm literally just going to go in and start to build up. And don't worry if you go over your darkest colour, because we're going to go back in and we can sharpen that back up afterwards. The reason why cut crease works so well for festival makeup, it just makes everything more visual. You have to remember, if you're at a festival, there's tons of people, you have lots going on with outfits, with hair, especially if you're doing a lot of embellishment with things like glitters. So doing an eye like this will help just to kind of piece everything together, just so your makeup doesn't get lost in the transition of everything else that's going on around it. So one thing to note about your cream liners, they do self-set and dry, so I would always suggest to get everything kind of in place, blended and shaped exactly how you want it before you move on to the next eye. Okay, so I'm happier with the shape. I'm just going to actually go in now with the AB22, so that magenta pink, with a really fine brush, and I'm just going to deepen the contour around that cut crease. So if you want to kind of sculpt it, shape it and define it, you can by doing this. And then just before that cream liner fully dries, I just want to go in and start to add the pigment that I want to colour it with. So I'm going to use AB13 from the Variety Bright. So it's this really gorgeous pop of orange. And just press that in on top. Just going to do the exact same on the other side. So I'm just mixing the colour from the cream liner on the back of my hand. One thing I would always say is just make sure you have enough product. You don't want it to be too dry, because then it tends to drag. You want it to really be able to just stamp onto the eye so that you get a nice clear shape. brush and blend that through. For the outer corners, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of the deeper purple and deep black from the V6 palette. So this one and this one, just to contour the corners, and then I'm going to go in with a little bit of a winged liner. So I'm just doing it on the outer edges, and then I'm going to go back into that magenta pink and also run that through. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little bit of glitter onto the lids. So I'm going to use the Hydro Mastix, which is a water-based glue. So it's really safe and suitable to use on and around the eyes. And then I'm going to use just a smaller brush just to apply. Don't have too much, you don't want it to be too wet because then it will move your eyeshadow. You just kind of want it tacky. I'm only going to use it right up in the corner. Then I'm taking the Polyester Glimmer in Pastel Yellow. This is the finest cut of the glitter. I don't think it's a festival makeup if you don't have some sort of jewel or glitter on the makeup. I always stick to the finer cut on the eyes. I just feel like it's a little bit more attractive on the eye, and then on the face you can always mix the larger grains and sizes. But just how gorgeous does that actually look? Gives so much reflection. Just use a little bit more of the glue. Okay, so that's enough on the lids for now. Just gives a little bit of a highlight and a sparkle. So eyeliner, I'm going to go in with the black liquid liner, which is one of my favourites. And I don't want to go too heavy with this because I am going to put on a heavy lash as well. So this is just to sort of kind of help blend in with the band. And then I can decide if I'm going to do a wing once the lashes are on. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the Dermalite mascara before I apply the lashes. If your lashes are quite straight, you can always curl them. It just helps for the lash to sit a little bit more comfortably on the eye. So I've just pre-cut these lashes. These are the TV4, which for me are perfect for festival makeup. They have lots of definition, but they're not overpowering. If you've already got so much going on with the eyes, you don't want the lashes to be too dominant as well. So I'm just literally using the glue that comes with the lashes, so it's really practical. And it's in a small little tube, so you can always take it with you as well. There's nothing worse if you feel like your lash is coming loose. This is a latex based, so it has a little bit more flexibility. And just, of course, let them go tacky, and then we can apply. If lashes are something you don't normally wear, use that eyeliner that you've done as your guide. So you always want it just to sit underneath that eyeliner, not directly on top. So that then helps to blend the band of the lashes. Okay, so I'm not going to add a wing to my liner. I feel like that's kind of dramatic enough. I still want to have a little bit of softness to the makeup. I feel like sometimes winged liner can end up making it a little bit hard as well. So I'm going to go on to base before I do eyebrows, just because my eyebrows are slightly more fluffier. It's a personal you know, shape and style that I like to wear mine, so there's no point me putting them in and then I need to blend around with my foundation, so I'll go back to them in a moment. So base wise, I'm going to start with the Ultra Under Base, which is a really amazing hydrating primer. When you're going to be at festivals, of course, you're going to be quite hot. You can end up being quite dehydrated, so you want your skin to feel really comfortable throughout the day, especially if you're wearing quite a heavy coverage base. Okay, so the foundation I chose is TV Paint Stick. Reasons being, it's a waxed base foundation, so this is going to be the most durable if you're going to be perspiring, if you're going to be in quite a hot, humid, environment. It's just going to really stay. It also has the most amazing coverage. So if you're looking for full coverage with a really amazing durability, the TV Paint Stick is definitely the one to go for. And then I'm going to take my Unicorn Perfecting Sponge and just blend that through. Because it also has high coverage, you don't need to use a lot. I always say if you're going to be having a makeup for something like a festival, for an occasional makeup, you don't want to have to put too much on, because I feel like sometimes then you're worried that it's going to come off because it feels really heavy and cakey. So the lighter the coverage, the better in the weight of the foundation. You still get like high coverage from the pigment. Okay, so just to conceal and highlight underneath my eyes, I'm going to take again the D62 Dermacolour Camouflage Concealer and mix it with a little bit of makeup blend, just so it's a little bit more easier to blend underneath the eyes. And as well, your Derma is also wax based, so it's fantastic again for the durability and to prevent too much creasing from underneath the eyes, as long as you fix them and bake well. Okay, so I need to go in and fix the base. I'm going to do all of my contouring and add a little bit more highlight with powders. Thinking of durability, again for festival, for humidity, too many creams you'll find that can end up moving throughout the day. So powder is always going to be a little bit more practical. So I'm just going to go in and really fix the P1 Derma Fixing Powder under the eyes to help bake and seal everything in. And I'm just again using the Unicorn Perfecting Sponge. And I'm actually going to fix the whole base with this powder because it just helps it to make it a little bit more water resistant. So you want to leave that on just for a couple of minutes just to set and bake. And then you can remove any of the excess. And then I'm going to go in with one of my favourite palettes. This is the Dual Finish Modelling. It's got all the shades in there that you can kind of brighten under the eyes, so I'm just going to use the slightly lighter shade just to go underneath. And again, these are great because you can really rehydrate these powders as well. So if it starts to look a little bit dry during the day, or you feel like the makeup needs to just kind of be refreshed, you can go in with a slightly damp sponge and just rehydrate the makeup. Okay, so before I start to contour, I actually want to just brighten a little bit more under the eyes. So I'm going to go in with the Silhouette palette from the Dual Finish, and I'm just going to take this shade, which is Banana. And I'm just going to bring that underneath the eye as well, just to help clean up and shape under my shadow. And then back to the modelling palette with ODS4, which is the darkest shade in the palette, just to really add that contour and sculpt the cheekbones. So I'm just going round, softening any edges and also helping to frame the face. I don't ever really over contour my nose if I'm being honest, but if you want to, you can still use this powder and maybe just transfer down to a smaller brush. So I'm going to add some highlight. This is my all-time favourite product to highlight with. It's the Satin Powder in SP331, but you can just see how much glow that adds to the skin, and that's exactly what you want for this type of makeup. You want everything to be really sort of shimmery, glossy and glittery. So you can definitely go a little bit crazier with this. It's got a really gorgeous little kind of pinky tint to it as well, so it looks quite nice as a blush. I am, however, going to add a little bit of blusher just to frame everything and to bring everything together. So I'm just going to use the same brush that I used to contour, and I'm going to take the shade Juicy Moon, which is in the Glamour Glow palette, which is this one. And you don't need too much of this, it's quite pigmented, so just a little pinch of colour. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my eyebrows. I'm going to use the Eyebrow Powder palette, which is amazing because it's wax base. So the good thing about that, again, you get that kind of water resistancy and that durability. So you don't want your eyebrows kind of smudging and moving throughout the day. And I'm only gonna kind of frame underneath just to give a little bit more structure. But I don't want to add too much colour to my brows because I don't want to make them too defined and too heavy. And this is why I also like to do brows last, because it still gives you that really nice carved out brow without having to go back in and use highlighters, and then it gets in the brow hair and looks all messy. I just think it's a much more cleaner way of working. But that's just personal preference. There's no right or wrong. You kind of do what you like to do. Okay, so you can see the difference there. It's just really shaped everything up. Colour-wise, I'm just going in with the medium and a tiny little bit of the fair as well, just to kind of lighten them slightly. Okay, and then I just need to add a little bit of eyebrow forming gel just to make sure that the brows are all really lifted and brushed up. This also helps to soften the powder as well, so if you feel like you've gone too heavy or it's a little bit too dark, you can really kind of just comb that through. Okay, so I'm just going to finish off the eyes. I'm going to go in with face liner in number 10 just to add a little bit more definition to my waterline. I always find it really hard to do that if I put in extremely funny faces. Okay, so for under the lash line, I'm just going to go in with the magenta that we used on top of the eye, just to marry everything together. Okay, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of mascara, and then we can start adding more glitter. So Dermalite mascara, I would always say, again, if you can get waterproof, then do, just so that you get a lot more durability. So I'm going to add a little bit of the Hydro Mastics again, so the water-based glue onto the inner corners. And I am going to use just the finest grain for this bit, because again, it's right near the corners of your eye. You need it to be comfortable as well. I just think it looks prettier when it's smaller. It's just a little bit more delicate. Okay, however, we're going to add more glitter just because we can. It's festival season, so we can go a little bit crazier. So I'm going to add a bigger brush for more application. So I'm going to actually do and work around the under eye and the frame of my cheekbones. And I'm going to work with a mix. So I have here the pastel blue, which is my favourite. It's like a mermaid colour. It's so pretty. And I'm going to mix that in with the pastel yellow. So these are in the larger grain. And then I'm also going to add the finer grain as well. So when you're working with the larger size glitters, I always try and mix the fine one so it fills in any little gaps, just so that you get more of a softer gradient of glitter going through. So I always kind of get the base on first, and then you can work out where else you want to go with it. So I just want it a little bit more concentrated, closer to the eye, and then it starts to kind of fall and come down. And it actually sits really beautifully against that satin powder highlight that I put down as well. Okay, so we're going to just do the exact same on the other side. I'm actually going to clean the brush off. I feel like if you have too much build-up of the glue that's slightly dried and the glitter, it ends up kind of going a little bit too heavy and it doesn't look as soft and as clear. So concentrate under the eye and then gently fade and bring that down. Okay, so the glitter, I feel like I have enough. I'm just going to go in now with the white liquid liner and just add some detailing. So you can kind of be playful with this. You can even just leave it with just the glitter. You don't have to put any more product on. Just adding a couple of little, kind of like freckles but in white. I'm just keeping these quite fine. I don't want them to be too big. I want it all to, again, still look quite delicate. And this is simple as well. If you're someone that's not really too painty, if you don't do much kind of face paint and body paint, this is simple enough to recreate and do. Okay, so I've lined my lips with the face liner in the shade 24, and I'm going to keep it really kind of nude, the lips, because I feel like there's already so much going on. So I'm just using the lip stain in Latin. And it's always going to be more practical using a lip stain, again, just for the durability. So that's our final look for our festival makeup.